good afternoon, namaste, assalamu alaikum. We have with us here Her Excellency, UN Resident Coordinator, members of UN, members of the media, fellow colleagues, invitees. Welcome to our Red Shoe event. Today, as we stand together to commemorate International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women, it's a violation, a human rights violation. With the big hashtag, no excuse. We have no excuse. We have to eliminate it. During this year, attention will be drawn to the alarming escalation of violence against women under the theme, every 10 minutes, a woman is killed. Once again, the hashtag, no excuse. At this time, I'll introduce the first speaker, Ms. Omiti Madrid. She is the Managing Director of ChildLink, also the Chairperson of the Civil Society National Reference Group. Omiti, over to you.
Thank you, Bibi. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, RC. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. And of course, our chair of the Women and Gender Commission, all our colleagues from the UN, our CSNRG colleagues. We are quite pleased to be here this afternoon out on the Seawalls and sharing with you the Red Shoe Project. You will hear a little bit more about it from my colleague in a little bit. We have over 90 pairs of shoes here, and she will tell you what they represent and why we are doing this Red Shoe event. When we speak about the 16 days of activism, and this event this afternoon really launches the 16 days of activism, it's really to remind us of the level of violence that are being perpetrated against women and children. Last year, 2023, it was recorded that every 10 minutes, a child or a woman is killed by someone they love, someone within their own families. And this is really sad that all of us here would know someone who was actually killed by someone they love, their partner, or some child would have been abused, really violated in a way that they are going to live with that for the rest of their lives. And we will hear from other speakers about what some children experience. So 16 days of activism remind us that we all should have a commitment to stopping violence against women and children, particularly women and girls. The hashtag is no excuse, and really what it's saying is that there's no excuse for violence against women. All forms of violence should not be tolerated against women. No form of violence is tolerable. We should all stand up and stop violence against women and children. The shoes today really are many different size, many different types, and they really sort of outline for us that women comes in many, we have many women from so many different cultures, so many different communities. Their lives tell some really interesting stories, but their lives were snuck out and they were never really given a chance to really have any form of quality of life. Some of them in their adult lives, some of them very young, some of them in their older life. And so this afternoon, we are speaking not just to our colleagues who have joined us, but those in the public. Join us as we say we have to stop violence against women and children. Thank you.
Our next speaker is our vice chair for the CSNRG. She also is the chief executive officer for the Women and Gender Equality Commission, Ms. Renata Chapasan. Over.
Good afternoon, everyone. Her Excellency, the Resident Coordinator of the United Nations in Guyana, Jean Kamau, my Chairperson of the Women and Gender Equality Commission, Indrani Chandapal, colleagues of the Civil Society National Reference Group, colleagues from the UN, members of the media, and supporters and stakeholders, good afternoon. The Red Shoe Project is a project that I wish we didn't have to do, but it is something that really should resonate with each of us. Each of the shoes here are red because the blood has been spilt, but it also represents a commonality. These are all women who have lost their lives through violence from somebody who they loved, somebody who they thought cared for them in most of the instances, and some person who they made a choice to be with. Um, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep having events like this because we seem to think that that violence is inevitable. This year, the theme for the 16 Days of Activism is no excuse. And I think when I spoke this morning on The Voice of Guyana, and I said each of us now has to take a personal decision to not be involved in violence. Because unless each of us takes that personal decision to not be involved in violence, we will continue to have events like this. The Red Shoe Project, I think, first started in Argentina, and it was to commemorate femicide, which is the killing of women. And they're very creative in Latin America with respect to their activism and their way of bringing home a story. And I think this particular story resonated with me, and it resonated with the members of the Civil Society National Reference Group, whereby if we got each of the members of the public, or sort of members of the public involved, to donate a pair of shoes. It's a simple act to donate a pair of shoes, and donate the shoes in the name of somebody you know, or in the name of somebody who you read about in the newspapers. It's a way of you getting involved, being active. To say this, that gender-based violence is not something that you wish to support. It's not something that you wish to continue. So today we've got nearly 100 pairs of shoes. I have to thank my staff at the commission because Akeem over there sprayed almost each one of these pairs of shoes. I mean, for the last couple of days, he's been inhaling spray paint. And for that, I thank you very much. Not for the inhaling, but for helping out. I want to thank the people who donated shoes. We must shout out to the Women Lawyers Association because they've donated most of the high heel shoes that you see here. And of course, you see the shoes here, they're of all shapes, they're of all sizes, because women live the separate lives. We are not homogeneous. Some wear flat shoes, some wear high heel shoes, some wear platform shoes. Some have big feet, some have small feet, and some have feet like mine in the middle. But they all were living their lives, and they no longer are with us. But we're taking the time today to remember who they were, to put a face to them, to say their names. And I hope that this resonates with you and that you make that personal decision to not be involved in violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Renata. Now I'll ask one of my colleagues, Keen Trotman, to introduce our next speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols already established. Ms. Andrani Chanjapal is a distinguished advocate for gender equality and social justice, serving as the chairperson of the Women and Gender Equality Commission. A woman of unwavering confidence and conviction, Ms. Chanjapal has passionately championed the cause of equality throughout her career. As a former Minister of Human Services and a long-standing member of Parliament, she has been at the forefront of policy making to advance the rights and welfare of women and marginalized groups. At this point, I'd like to welcome Ms. Chandrani.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols have already been established, but nonetheless, I would like to acknowledge our resident coordinator, the United Nations. I want to start off by saying that I would echo the sentiments that have been expressed before with respect to this initiative. It is symbolic, it makes you sad, because it is a reality of life. And as was pointed out by our CEO, it represents the diversity of the women that are here. And I more or less read all the stories of the various women. And, it really hurts you to know that their lives were taken, were chopped, were taken off, were murdered in the way they did. However, this afternoon, I will not repeat what was said. I like to talk a little bit about history. And it's important that we do that so that we can understand how November 25 became a reality. In 1960, in the Dominican Republic, there were three sisters, as they were known, the Mirabel sisters, who were very critical of the dictator Trujillo. And he masterminded their murder. Three sisters were murdered because of what he was doing. As a matter of fact, he wanted to befriend one of the women. And because she refused to befriend him, he also was incensed about that. And so he not only have them murdered, but have the car in which they were thrown from a hill so that it would look as if it was an accident. But everybody knew it was a murder. And the women of the Dominican Republic, from 1960 until 1999, they have been lobbying countries, the United Nations, through the Organization of American States. They have raised through SIM, the Inter-American Commission of Women, the need to have this day recognized. And it was in 1999 that the United Nations General Assembly adopted this resolution. And so we have the whole world at this time celebrating or observing November 25th. And we know the 16 days of activism is culminating on the Human Rights Day, December 10th. But what is the history for us here in Guyana? How much of you will know that in 1989, domestic violence was considered a family affair? That if there is violence in the home, no one cares, because it was said, that is your business. We don't want to get involved in it. You couldn't have gone to the police station and say that someone is killing or fighting or beating up their spouses. It was your affair. It was a family matter. And so in 1989, Professor Ken Dance and Basma Chifpasod, through the University of Guyana, undertook a survey in which it was stated that 2 out of every 5 women were victims of violence. So people started asking questions and got interested. I know at that time, the women's movement, they were concerned about it. And it's not that we who have been working with women have not been talking about this issue. This issue was talked about for a very long time. But since there were no laws to protect women, you sometimes feel as if you're wasting your time talking about it. And so it was in 1996, the domestic violence legislation became a reality, which made it an offense for any person who committed an act of violence against a woman or a man, any of the spouses. It was not supposed to happen, and it became a criminal offense. But it is important to know that even before 1996, and I probably want to refer back to CEDAW, which Guyana signed in 1981. As a matter of fact, the Commission only a few days ago had a big conference in which we had nearly 200 stakeholders participating in that event. So When you talk about CEDAW, we know there are about 30 articles of CEDAW, and violence is dealt with as well. In 1994, Guyana became a signatory to the convention on the Belém do Pará Convention, which is a convention that talks about the eradication of violence against women. So we're seeing the pattern that has emerged from people not interested in it to an issue that people began to take an interest in. Governments and society were engaged in having discussions about it. And I'm heartened to say that we have seen NGOs, women groups all over getting involved, talking about it at various levels to educate people about domestic violence. I recall the women lawyers putting out a booklet that was then distributed right across this country. I remember, on behalf of my organization, collected more than 2,000 copies, which we distributed in this country so that women can become educated. So domestic violence in this regard has been with us, will continue to be with us, and it is important for all of us to get involved in whatever way we can. I know in 2019 there was a UN status report here on health, in which it was reported out of every 3 women, 2 women were victims of violence. So it begs the question, one would have thought that having been involved in all this activism that has been taking place in our country, that one would have seen a reduction. But we're not seeing a reduction. We're seeing an increase in violence in a variety of ways. And if you look at all those stories about women, you would have seen the ways in which they were murdered, the brutality of it, and the forms in which it has taken. So I think as women organizations, we have a lot more work to do. We in the Commission have recognized that we cannot speak to women only, and we have embarked now on getting our menfolk involved, because they are in the main perpetrators of violence. And it is for us to try to understand why is it that the victims are, why the perpetrators are behaving the way they are. Is it only patriarchy? Is it because of religious views? Is it because men are feeling emasculated? Do they feel that women are doing better and women are coming out, and hence there is a need for them to show who is the boss in their home, and so on and so forth? There is that discussion which has to take place more often than what we are presently doing. And we have to bring the men on board as a partner in what we're doing. We cannot only talk about the perpetrators being men when we, as women, understand fully the role of us as women, as mothers, and the way we nurture and the way we get our boys, socialize our boys, and the way we talk to them, and to ask ourselves as mothers and women whether what we're doing is harming our children by, the roles that we ascribe to them, that boys should do this and girls should do this and so on and so forth. A lot of us older ones, we know that because there were many taboos that we had to deal with. But today, the younger generation, they're much more exposed, and hence we will have to use the mediums that are available to educate them so they can understand this. We also in the Commission are hoping by next year, we will be reaching out in every region to at least 100 men and get them to partner with us So together we can bring down these numbers and help to change the discourse that is presently taking place. So on behalf of the Commission, we are pleased to be here. The occasion is a sad one, but it's a reality. But we who have been given the responsibility in our Constitution to undertake this and many other things that we are required to do. As a matter of fact, we have 14 mandates. They're very wide, and we have a lot of work to do, and we have been doing that. So I want to encourage the collaboration that has been taking place, and we thank all of you who have been doing this because of your love and your concern, and you want to make a difference in the lives of our women and society. So I thank you, and I also would like to thank the UN for all the roles that they have played in a variety of ways, and in this one especially. So thank you very much, and we have to continue fighting.
Next on the program, we have with us here Her Excellency, the Deputy High Commissioner of the British Embassy. Her Excellency, Ms. Pogo will make a few remarks. Over to you.
Hi everyone. Permit me to stand on all all the protocol previously established. Today is indeed a sad day. Seeing these pictures and the shoes, I mean, just a piece of paper, you see a name on it, you see the day they died. Nothing tells us about the amazing lives they lived, or we don't even know what preceded the actions and what pain they suffered before their lives were stolen from them. One death is one death too many. And yes, we have various organizations, NGOs, we have various people that, are trained to, deal with this kind of things, but it starts with us. It starts with the community. While it's scary sometimes to intervene when someone is going through violence doesn't start with the hitting. Actually, it's a woman being touched or molested. It doesn't start with it didn't get to that stage. It starts with emotional abuse. It starts with all kinds of things where it's all about control. And when you witness something like that, please find the strength, even if you can't do it yourself, be the voice of that person that can speak up for themselves. And also as a community, sometimes I've seen in communities where you see women that are being abused repeatedly, and the family are like, oh, you have to go back to your husband's house. Don't bring embarrassment and shame to the family. And you put them back in the same place they are being abused. That practice has to stop. And we need to really listen, not just to women, there are men also. I heard today that 85% of women suffer domestic abuse and 15% are men. Men too go through it. And in the UK, we've got a Domestic Abuse Act of 2021, and it's something that is being taken seriously. For example, in the UK, we've got family liaison officers, we've got various social workers, and the police are being trained to ensure that they take any form of reports made to them by a person that is subjected to abuse. They need to take it seriously. It doesn't matter if the person appears drunk, doesn't matter what the circumstances is, they are not meant to judge them. So as we stand collectively, and I just want to commend you all for the amazing job that you're doing. I know it's not the easiest because you have those difficult conversations, but let's keep speaking out for our sisters and let's keep speaking out for our brothers. Thank you very much.
All protocols have been exhausted. I take this distinct opportunity to introduce to you the UN Representative Coordinator in Guyana. Her Excellency, John Kimu, I will say, is the UN Representative Coordinator in Guyana. Ms. Kimu recently served in Kenya as ambassador to the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union. She has successfully served as a diplomat in the Republic of South Africa Kingdom in Lesotho and Washington, D.C. Miss John Campbell worked in international development as a country director in Action AIDS International in Kenya and Lesotho, where she managed the organization's country program. Ms. Camus also served as the first executive director of the Federation of Women's Lawyers, FIDA, Kenya, which was a pioneer agency for Kenya's women's legal empowerment through the provision of legal aid services and advocacy. Ms. Camus has extensive consulting experience in human rights, women's rights, peace building, institutional development, governance, and development. It is my distinct honor to present to you the Honorable, as we say, Her Excellency Jean, or Jean, as it's called in different places, the UN representative and coordinator to Guyana. Madam Jean, it's your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We're so honored to be here. When I say we, I'm representing the UN, and to be here to see this amazing display. It's very sad, but very appropriate as we start the 16 days of activism against violence against women. And for all these women whose lives were cut short through an act of violence, can we just take a moment of silence just for their honor, please? Thank you. So let me start my brief remarks by acknowledging the members of the Women and Gender Equality Commission who are here. Omati and Renata, Civil Society National Reference Group. The civil society organizations that are represented here, partners, representatives of the media houses, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending this important event and being part of this important commemoration. On November 17th, while I was reading the daily newspapers, I came across the heartbreaking story of the passing of a 28-year-old woman who succumbed to grave injuries inflicted by her partner. Her family and friends have likely shared stories of her dreams, her aspirations, and the goals that she had set for herself. With her loss, we as a society have been robbed of a young woman whose potential contributions, both economic and social, could have been enriched by her, in her community and indeed her country. Tragically, this is not the only such case I've encountered since my arrival in Guyana in September 2024. In 2024, women and girls continue to be murdered simply because of their gender, not only here in Guyana, but across the globe, at an alarming and unacceptable rate. Globally, gender-related killing is the most pervasive manifestation of violence against women. The data shows that 140 women and girls die every day at the hands of their partner or a close relative, which means one woman or girl is killed every 10 minutes. I join you today as we stand united in our commitment to end gender-based violence in Guyana. This Red Shoe event on this International Day of the Elimination of Violence Against Women is more than just a gathering.
It is a powerful symbol of solidarity, resilience, and hope. And talking about hope, this morning we attended the launch of a Justice and Hope Center in Region 3. And one of the commitments and the promises that was made during that important launch was to expand these centers all over the country so that more citizens can access the services. And what was very empowering about this center is the integrated nature of the service, that in a one-stop center, you have access to medical care, police services, psychological support, social support, and that is really, and that would save victims of violence the added trauma of accessing services. So this is a really important development that has happened here in Guyana, and I was hoping the Honourable Minister would be here so that we could also acknowledge the efforts that she has put in place alongside partners, other partners who include, of course, the UN agencies. I also take this moment to acknowledge the survivors, women and girls, men and boys, LGBTIQA plus people, sex workers, who have experienced violence and brave societal norms to tell their stories and pave a different life, a life free of violence. Their courage inspires us to do better and to advocate more fiercely for justice, protection, and prevention. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the UN General Assembly's designation of November 25th as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. We received a very good history lesson just now from, oh, she's left? No, she's there. Yeah, from Indra Chantapal, who gave us a very important lesson on how this day came about to be commemorated. And for 25 years, we have raised awareness of gender-based violence, not as a domestic issue, but as a systematic violation of human rights affecting individuals, families, communities, and nations. Violence against women and girls continues to be driven by deep-rooted norms, stigma, culture, practices, economic inequality, among other contributing factors. Next year, we're going to be celebrating 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. And this yet is another opportunity to draw attention to the urgency for action and accountability with a special focus on addressing gender-related killings of women worldwide. We can and we must fulfill the promise of the Beijing Platform for Action and the Sustainable Development Goals. It requires all of us, leaders, civil society, governments, private sector, academia, every individual, to a partner in our families, to engage in dialogue and to undertake deliberate corrective actions to deliver tangible and meaningful change. The UN system is proud to support the efforts in Guyana in addressing these issues, from strengthening data collection and the legal and policy framework to expanding the reach of services and our understanding of how gender-based violence is continuing and how to then address it through meaningful, sustainable solutions. I want to finish by just thanking again the organizers who have put together this impressive display that will be a reminder of how deeply ingrained and pervasive violence against women is. And that to put a face, a picture, and a narrative to each of these pairs of shoes is a very strong representation that we must take with us as we start this 16 days of activism in 2024. I'd like to thank the social workers, the staff of this various civil society organizations who work tirelessly, the Commission, the UN staff who have been part and parcel of this initiative by supporting our partners to come up with this display and indeed to come up with a program for the next 16 days. It's only through your advocacy, outreach, and action that you embody the spirit of resilience, encouraging communities to rise above barriers and chart pathways to equality and empowerment. And your work not only uplifts individuals, but strengthens our society. Thank you very much for your attendance today. And again, thank you for the commitment of the civil society, the commission, and all the partners. And continue leading us and helping us to make the best of the 16 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, RC. I now call on my colleague, Indrani Ramnarayan, and she has to take the microphone.
Thank you very much, Bibi. I stand on the protocols already established, and I wish to share with you 9 synopses of women who were victims of gender-based violence, which led to their death. Period between 2022 and 2024. And these are only 9 cases. January 27, 24-year-old Loretta Simon was fatally stabbed by her ex-boyfriend at her mother's resident Seafield Sophia home. She was also pregnant. Police had issued a wanted bulletin for Terrence Thomas, who was apprehended and later charged for her murder. Secondly, Savitri Raj was stabbed multiple times on April 11th by her husband Vijay Raj while she was sleeping at her home in Fowles, East Coast, Demerara. More than a month later, Vijay's body was found in Enmore, Backlands. It is suspected that he took his own life by consuming a poisonous substance. Reports are that Vijay had assaulted Savitri in the past, and reports were made to the police but led to nowhere. Next, at the end of April, the body of 53-year-old Wayumati Parmal, the mother of a well-known cricketer, was found in a shallow grave in her yard at Kilcoy Chesney, Quarantine, Berbice. Her husband, Avimennen Parmal, later confessed to choking her and wrapping her body in a bed sheet before burying her. He is currently facing a murder charge. On the afternoon of May 27th, the decomposed body of a school teacher, Omega Alt, was found in her Crane Village apartment, West Coast, Demerara. An autopsy later showed that she died from brain hemorrhage and multiple traumas to the head. After a wanted bulletin was issued for him, her husband, Clarence Farley, was arrested on the evening of June 2nd at a hotel in number 78 Village, Quarantine. He is subsequently being charged with her murder. May I say, Miss Omega Alt, the late Omega Alt, was my childhood friend from nursery, primary, and secondary school. We even trained together in college. The body of Donalisa Parks was found wrapped in a bag along the Quarantine Highway in number 1 Village on June 30th. She was strangled to death by her boyfriend Colin Hazel, a corporal of the Guyana Defense Force, who told the police that he's willing to face the consequences of his actions. Hazel was charged with her murder. Anuradha Kaitun, a 34-year-old fruits vendor of Best Village, West Coast, Demerara, Region 3, was stabbed to death on Saturday, June 22nd, in the night that is, allegedly by her husband. Police headquarters would have reported that the woman and her 30-year-old husband shared a common law relationship for over 5 years, which was abusive. On August 8th, Cindy Ramchandar, 24, was stabbed 4 times by her husband, her ex-husband, Suraj Ganpat, at number 47 Village, Quarantine. 2 months before, Ramchandar had separated from the man, and she informed her mother that she was facing hard abuse at the hands of her husband. Ganpat eventually turned himself over to the police and was charged with her murder. Denisa Dazel, a mother of 1, was stabbed 16 times, reportedly by her common law partner on the night of August 26, after she had returned home from a church concert. After he fled the scene, Quincy Roach was then arrested and charged with murder. Finally, out of the 9, Beverly Ann Mangro, a 38-year mother, who died on the 1st of April 2009. She was stabbed 13 times to her body and her throat was slit. If you pay attention to the date, it was the 1st of April, which we commonly call All Fools' Day. This is somebody who's very close to me. After her demise, I foster her 2 children to date. A parent that was very committed to her children. I've seen her at every single PTA meeting you could have had, any activity that could lead to the development of her children. She was committed. The least I can do is to be a foster mother to her children, especially her daughter. Join myself and Shaika as we recite, or rather read, a poem to you dedicated I Got Flowers Today by Paulette Kelly. So we must give credit. I got flowers today. It wasn't my birthday or any other special day. We had our first argument last night, and he said a lot of cruel things that really hurt. I know he's sorry, and he didn't mean to say the things he said because he sent me flowers today.
I got flowers today. It wasn't our anniversary or any other special day. Last night, he threw me into a wall and started to choke me. It seemed like a nightmare. I couldn't believe that it was real. I woke up this morning sore and bruised all over. I know, he must be sorry. Because today, he sent me flowers.
I got flowers today, and it wasn't Valentine's Day or any other special day. Last night, he beat me and threatened to kill me. Makeup and long sleeves didn't hide the cuts and the bruises this time. I couldn't go to work today because I didn't want anyone to know. But I know he's sorry because he sent me flowers today.
I got flowers today. It was Mother's Day. It wasn't Mother's Day or any other special day. Last night, he beat me again, and it was worse than all the other times. If I leave him, what will I do? How will I take care of my children? What about money? I'm afraid of him, but I'm too scared and dependent to leave him. But he must be sorry because he got me flowers today.
I got flowers today. Today was a special day. It was the day of my funeral. Last night, he killed me. If only I would have gathered the courage and strength to leave him. I could have received help from the women's shelter, but I didn't ask for their help. So I got flowers today for the last time. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't get flowers because I survived. And I will continue to be a voice for the women. Last but not least, my colleague Beverly will give a testimony about Grace.
The story of Grace. Grace was a 25-year-old young girl. She had 6 children. She went to the counselor for help. When she got into the counselor's room, she threw herself in the chair. She said, "I'm tired. My body is worn. I can hardly talk or walk." The counselor replied, "Do you want to see the doctor? He's nearby." "No," she said, "I just need to tell you something. My husband and I, we go to church, not regularly. But I have 6 children at 25. The counselor said, 6 children. She said, yes. And the Bible says that a woman must submit herself, and I'm saying it as she said it to me, that a woman must submit herself to her husband. Well, that is what I get for it. The counselor was silent. Yes, he always wants sex steady, steady, steady. And when I say no, and his body hurting me, and my head hurting me, he doesn't care. What he does, he would rip my clothes off. And it's very, very hurtful, painful, and cruel. Yes, that is what I got for it. The counselor continued the conversation, trying to soothe her pain, not with hope at that time, because she was hopeless, and planned the next meeting as she offered her some water to drink. She drank the water. Yes, I will come back and see you in 4 days' time. And this was after being in the counselor's room for about an hour and a half. I will come back in 4 days' time. The counselor watched her walk, helped her through the door, along the corridor, and accompanied her to a ride. See you on Friday, 4 days later. Friends, 4 days later, she died. 4 days later, to carve a way forward never happened. What a way for a 24-year-old girl to die. When stories about the Bible are skewed in one direction, it also says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. That part is often excluded. The relationship between men and women is one of respect. The whole story says that. Friend, I left these shoes. I left this pair of red shoes. And I placed these white flowers. As I remember grace, friends, I was that counselor. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, when you save a woman or a child from any form of abuse, you are not a busybody, you are a hero. I thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. I open the mic if anybody wants to say a few words. In the meantime, just remember, if you know anyone who is being abused, please call the 914 number. It's a toll-free number. It's free. Or you can reach out to civil society organization. But 914 is there to help all of us. In my time, I didn't have 914. I had to use the then ministry, and it was a right wrong way. But I'm thankful today that I survived. And I can stand up here to be a voice for the voiceless.
So good afternoon. Thank you, Miss Chan, for Grace's story. So my ex-husband and I were once involved in the church, and I was one of those who stuck in and took my abuse because of the church. And I remember the church having counseling sessions, and Miss Chan was a part of that counseling session. And she said to us, of course you were married for better and for worse, but can you stand and hit on something all the time? Would it be there 20 years later? And I said no. So she said, look at yourself being abused. How do you see yourself 20 years after now? I thank God for life that I was able to walk out of my marriage, leaving everything behind, furthered my study, in which I couldn't have done while being married. I also thank all the counselors that would have helped me, like Miss Cole, who was once my social worker when I was abused. And then I heard someone saying, your family would say to you, go back. And I had those days when my family said to me, we can't put you up for another 2 days or another days. And so I had to return back to that marriage until I built the confidence and move with my children and our clothes and our bags. I'm a graduating student next year with my degree. Away from my husband, I was able to achieve almost everything that I wanted to achieve in life. So I want to say to women out there, you're going to have days that you're going to go hungry. You're going to have days that you cannot have anything to feed your children, or that you can just take what you have and feed them. But you see that thing that called peace of mind, and that thing that called self-worth and satisfaction, you can get that standing alone than having someone beat at you and rape you when you say no. So stand up for what's right and move on for your peace and your sanity.
Thank you